hours in, Rodney, on this amazing episode. And this morning, the Facebook streaming option was not available to Rodney, and he maybe had a little panic attack. He was able to eventually contact some support and get us streaming. So thank you, Rodney, for your stress-induced panic attack this morning that allowed you to break through. Inside Scoopers, if this is your first time live, welcome. We are so glad that you are here. This is one of our more popular episodes and series that we do every year, the Pet Food Reviews. Rodney, you have a few things to let Inside Scoopers know where they can go to access more information.
Yes, absolutely I do. First of all, welcome to part 2 of the 2025 Pet Food Review, the world's largest live streaming show. Everything is live, folks. Nothing is pre-recorded here. Also, some quick caveats for all the new people that are signing in right now. You want to make sure if you're coming in through Facebook, you come in through the Inside Scoop group. This is where we hold our PDFs. We had one last week for our preview that you want to download as well. But go to the Subscriber Hub off the Planet Paws page from where you joined from Facebook. Go into the Visit Subscriber group, and that will take you into the Inside Scoop. Now, you might be live streaming right now from the website from Kajabi, but if you're live streaming from Facebook, you want to go to the guide section to get a hold of all of the content. You're talking years and years of some of the most incredible, vital, medical, health-related, behavior-related topics that we have, the podcasts that we have. Oh, and by the way, we have downloads, PDFs, workbook guides, Dr. Becker in our file section. So if you're on the go, you don't have time to listen, you can download some of the incredible PDFs that we have there. But let me tell you, if you are a first-time subscriber, folks, on the Planet Paws page, one of the fastest ways is to click on the live tab where you'll find over 300 episodes of, as I mentioned, topics that you want for longevity, for health, and so on and so forth. We've got a whole bunch going on. And as I mentioned, today is part 2 of the reviews, Dr. Becker. Now, Inside Scoopers, we've already covered over 115 brands. So if you don't see your brand today, just go into the search function, type in the brand that you might be looking for, and hopefully it was covered as we start to build our library of brands that we have. I'll tell you, it's been quite a week. All the incredible manufacturers that have reached out that said, hey man, please include us in your reviews.
Yes.
You know, unfortunately we can't cover them. There's so many brands, Dr. Becker.
Well, and not just so many brands, Rodney. I think it is important. We did get a ton of emails from manufacturers this week. Interesting. Some of them said, hey, we're interested in having our brand reviewed. That is not how it works. The brands have been selected, Inside Scoopers, the top selling brands based on Amazon sales, so Amazon Chewy industry stats, most popular and requested brands from you, the Inside Scoopers, as well as the best-selling base mixes. So we, as the Inside Scoop admin team and your host, we are not picking brands. We are allowing our Inside Scoopers to pick the brands as well as the top performing brands being sold. So we are just responding to your wants and needs. The other thing, Rodney, that I thought was interesting is some of the emails with people asking if our featured experts are getting a paycheck. And I will just say right now, not only are they all volunteering, they all have spent hours and hours and hours reviewing the incredible amount of information that our admins and B, our awesome assistant, have put together this massive document with all of the information from every company that we are reviewing. Our experts have just donated their time graciously to give their honest professional opinions. So these are not paid reviews. We have not talked to each other as experts about what we're going to say. So all this information is objective, it's honest, and I think most importantly, Rodney, it's quite transparent and truthful from us as pet parents as well. You know, we are looking at these brands as as veterinarians, would we feel comfortable recommending them, but also would we feed them to our own animals? So we have a lovely group of experts today that I can't wait to introduce, but this has been a pretty exciting week in terms of lots of brands that we have not reviewed before coming in, and some people wondering when we're going to repeat some of the brands that we've done before. Bee had a good idea. Beatrice suggested that we do a Where Are They Now section. Inside Scoopers, if you're interested in a Where Are They Now, some of the brands that we have previously reviewed have made changes. Their feeding directions were incorrect. They fixed them. They were not very transparent. They wouldn't provide guaranteed analyses, they wouldn't provide complete nutritional analyses. And after us demonstrating that as pet parents and veterinarians, we need that information, they've done that. So the other thing that I think we can consider doing, Rodney, is a catch up with some of the dozens and dozens of brands that we have previously reviewed to see how they have improved their lines. Yeah. It's a beautiful suggestion.
To go back to touch on the paid review section, I do know some wonderful brands were reaching out and asking, hey, do you guys accept any monetary funds to have us on your show? And yes, there are, sadly today, a lot of reviews that are done on social media. They're paid reviews. As you had mentioned, none of these are paid reviews. In fact, when we put together our experts, and now we have more reviews coming, this is part 2 of our 4-part review system that we have. And each week we bring on incredible experts that have superpowers in different categories that would fit very nicely in helping us to review the brands. So you get a different feel from, and a different tool from that expert to put in your toolbox when you are learning how to choose a brand today in 2025. So not only are we excited about these experts, but this is like consultation, Dr. Becker, like the brands that are also watching today, this is like thousands and thousands of dollars of like consultation, like almost like $10,000 in consultation information that a brand can get from some of our experts. Because imagine, these aren't to ridicule these brands. These is just to inspire these brands of some holes, what the 2.0 pet parent is looking for today and how these brands can improve, no?
Well, and I tell you what, as veterinarians, and we have Inside Scoopers, our beautiful community consists of guest manufacturers, but veterinarians, PhDs, researchers, and a ton of knowledgeable pet parents. It's really amazing. Some pet food companies spend a lot of money for client surveys and understanding what their buyer base wants, understanding where the holes are in their brand and or how they can make their products better. What I love, Rodney, is that we decided to do these reviews. Planet Paws, Rodney's Facebook page, is the largest pet health page in the world. We have the most committed, knowledgeable pet parents in Inside Scoop. So we are happily sharing our honest, heartfelt opinions about your brands with you, not to attack you, but to tell you honestly what we are hearing as veterinarians, what we are seeing as veterinarians, what we're seeing as industry experts. And this is to make our entire industry better. So above all, when you hear some criticisms today, please recognize that this is not a direct assault on you as a human being. This is us honestly talking about our concerns about your product. And so you can be annoyed by that, or you could say, my gosh, I got this amazing information for free, and use it as the foundation, potentially make your products better. And that's our goal and our intent, is to make the entire industry better. So listen, that's an important thing to talk about.
Comment section freaking out about that humming noise. My Dyson just crashed on me. If anyone from Dyson is watching, it started to make this crazy humming noise. I really had to go.
We'll do an air purifier review next time. Hey, Rodney, happy birthday!
Oh,
comment section lighting up with happy birthday as well. So Rodney, happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Inside Scoopers, and to all the people that were with you for the incredible birthday wishes. I still got to get around to thanking everybody. Yes, one last thing I will add before we introduce our guests, because this is what everyone's here for today. There are a whole lot of experts that reached out to me as well saying, hey, why don't you get my take? I'm an expert, I'm a PhD, I am somebody in this section, no problem. Send your emails to us and we will have them reviewed for 2026, because we're always open to bringing in fresh new takes. So something to consider. And also, before we jump in next week, I know it's kind of early, but listen, a topic that everyone's super concerned with, Dr. Becker, the bird flu, avian influenza situation today with raw food. So we are bringing board certified, also the Director of Scientific Affairs for Nature's Variety, Dr. Susan Wynn, who's going to come in and give us her take on what is currently happening today with the bird flu, avian influenza. And, I think this is a show where we can bring a whole bunch of experts on to get all of their takes,
Yes.
because we know right now this is a huge issue globally where not one person has figured out the solution or exactly what's going on. So stay tuned for that as well.
Next week will be, a really important topic. But along that same vein, that rolls nicely into our beautiful featured panel of experts. Next to me is the one and only Susan Thixton, Truth About Pet Food. She is the only consumer advocate out there that is third-party checking and taking care of us in terms of making sure that when people say it's organic, it really is organic. She is the woman in the trenches that really is doing the hard work and the deep dive in holding companies accountable for what they say their products are made of. And we're so grateful, Susan Thixton, that you are joining us again. Welcome.
Yay.
Yay. Next to Susan Thixton is Dr. Barbara Royal. Dr. Barbara Royal, many of you know Dr. Barbara Royal. She is the veterinarian and the founder of the Royal Treatment Veterinary Center. She is also the CEO of CIVT, the College of Integrative Veterinary Therapies, which is this online hub of amazing information. But it's a EDU, it's an institution for veterinarians for continuing education, but also pet parents, groomers, dog walkers, CVTs, certified vet techs, anyone in the animal health and wellness space. Dr. Barbara Royal has this amazing opportunity for CE, additional learning, and a community of proactive, like-minded, open-minded, forward-thinking, health-oriented professionals. She heads that up. She also is a full-time veterinarian. She is Oprah's veterinarian. She is the featured veterinarian on the Smithsonian Channel, and she has written 3 books, including The Royal Treatment. She is here today as a full-time veterinarian in the trenches, kind of the ear to the beat of what people are saying in the exam room about some of these food choices. So welcome, Barbara Royal.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Woohoo! Next to Barbara Royal is Dr. Susan Recker. All of you Inside Scoopers are already familiar with Dr. Recker because she headed up our Pet Food U, our Inside Scoop nutrition course with Steve Brown to teach you the details of formulation. And I just remind you, Inside Scoopers, that all of those episodes are still available, collected into one file section. So when you hear Dr. Recker today, she has put in, next to Rodney at like 88 hours this week, she has put in the next chunk of time. Susan has spent, I think, over 50 hours for the companies that did provide nutritional analyses. Susan has gone in to make sure that their feeding directions are matching to what the CNA, the Complete Nutritional Analysis, shows. She has put in a tremendous amount of work and time to give you her opinion. And we appreciate not only her expertise in this area, but as kind of the liaison for the animal diet formulator, she is able to give us really objective numbers that it doesn't matter how much we love a company, if the nutrition is off or the feeding directions are off, there is room for improvement. And Dr. Recker is that objective voice that allows us to really recognize what's happening with these brands. So we love her expertise and her commitment to spending so much time volunteering this week. Thank you, Dr. Recker, and welcome back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
All right. Well, Inside Scoopers, today, as we had mentioned, part 2. Today we're going to be covering the topics of gently cooked foods, very popular right now on the market, and dehydrated pet foods. Now, before we get into it, we're going to talk just quickly about the categories on how we're doing the scoring here in the Inside Scoop. You may have seen this in part 1 when we did the dry kibble review. It kind of stands the same. So when we look at the criteria of the foods we're about to review, first, our experts are looking at the company, the brand itself, how they feel about the brand as a whole, their transparency, quality control, batch testing, marketing, and etc. Up next is the cost and value, the value of what you, the pet parent, gets. And then for nutrition, does it meet its minimum requirements? Are there excessive or deficient nutrients? Is there a full, complete nutritional analysis, etc. when it comes to what we're reviewing? Ingredients, ingredient sourcing, number of synthetics, ingredient quality, obviously very important. And then the feeding guidelines. So today we'll get an explanation why some companies' feeding guidelines might not be correct. Steve Brown, the incredible Steve Brown, talked about it last week. Make sure to tune into that as well, and why some of these might be making your pet a little bit overweight. Also, Karen, one thing that I didn't get to bring up last time was we reached out to a whole bunch of companies using our mystery shoppers.
Ooh, yes. Our mystery shopper put in a tremendous amount of time as well. Our mystery shopper contacts the companies and asks for more information. Specifically, are they willing to provide a complete nutritional analysis? And this is really important because it also is a way for us to be able to look at how customer service is happening. Whether we are calling companies or whether we're emailing companies, what we hope is that, number one, the companies do respond and that they respond in a timely manner, and that they're interested in providing the information that our mystery shopper is asking for, specifically a complete nutritional analysis. Now, why is this so important, Rodney? Well, let's just take human infant milk replacer formula. If we are nourishing our kid and human infant milk replacer formula is labeled as nutritionally complete, all you have to do is give this one food and your kid's going to be fine and you're not going to have nutritional deficiencies. That is the equivalent of what pet foods that are making a nutritional adequacy claim are saying. Pet food companies that are claiming that their food is nutritionally complete, they, in our opinion, should show us proudly what's in their food. And there are some brands that will tell us that that is proprietary information, that they're unwilling to share the nutrient levels in their food. And that's spooky to me as a veterinarian, and in my opinion probably should be spooky to you as a pet parent, because how do you, if it's proprietary, how do we know how much nutrients are in the food? We don't. So you're going to hear that topic come up today, and that's a little bit of a background so that you all recognize our mystery shoppers asks were, how is customer service in terms of response, and is the company willing to provide the information that pet parents are asking for? And some of them are, and some of them aren't. And so that is a part of today's reviews. So thank you, mystery shoppers, inside scoopers. Again, all volunteers. We are all volunteering, and we appreciate our commitment from our awesome admin that put a lot of time in for these episodes. So thank you guys so much. All right, Rodney.
Okay, so the way that we've broken these up and how we've categorized, how we've selected these foods is that the good doctor had mentioned earlier when the manufacturers are reaching out to us saying, hey man, why won't you pick our food? This is because it's you, the consumer, who does a lot of the choosing. So the way that we put these together for you is going to be, the first category will be the best seller category. Now, these are the brands, the best-selling brands based on sales. We use things like Amazon and Chewy's and industry stats here. These are usually the big guys that a lot of people have questions about, Dr. Becker. And the first brand that people have asked about is Just Food for Dogs. Now, Susan, we sent you when we sent you this, we know that you were under a lot of research with Just Food for Dogs. What have you found in your research to start off the 2025 Pet Food Review Part 2 episode today?
Some transparency, Just Food for Dogs has been on my list since the beginning, but it was not included in 2025. And I've gotten many emails about this. The reason is they didn't respond to my question. Each year with the list, we start over from square one, and they have to answer questions and provide verification. And they just didn't respond this year. As soon as the list went public, they realized their message and they reached out to me and said, I'm sorry. So they will be considered again next year. This week I did some extra research that I didn't do for the last show. I looked at what these companies, their investments, that private equity investments that they might be accepting. Just Food for Dogs does have partial investment from private equity. They have had one recall, a pathogenic bacteria recall. And the interesting thing about this recall, I think the ingredient was green beans. They found it first. Their recall came out first. They notified the supplier of the green beans, and then the supplier in the human food chain recalled the green beans. So I have to give them kudos for finding that problem before even the ingredient supplier found it.
Yeah, the good information, Susan. Thank you for that background. Dr. Royal?
Hey.
Hey, what are you thinking?
Well, when I'm looking at a company, I'm always focusing on, balance and completeness of how they do it and all of that, and that they're thinking the right thing. I'm also focusing a lot on how they're sourcing and what their goals seem to be. So that treatment and things like that. That's how I think of a company. Is their ethos where I want it to be? So for this company, for Just Food for Dogs, I feel like they're not sourcing very well, it's better because it's not feed grade. It's human grade, but it isn't necessarily humanely sourced or pasture raised, that kind of thing for the animals, and it's not organic for the produce. So I worry about their ethos that way.
And I do appreciate that the food is human grade, but as you mentioned, not organic, not humanely slaughtered. So there is, it's conventional human grade. Yay for being human grade, but conventional means that there's probably, glyphosate on the produce, and factory farm meats have, we've covered whole episodes in Inside Scoopers on the factory farmed things that happen with animals that are stressed their entire lives and have not amazing food and incredibly high stressful, horrible living environments, and what that translates into in terms of quality of meats.
And for me, when I see it in the patient, you can see the difference.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. That makes sense. And Dr. Recker, you were able to plug in some numbers. What did you get the information that you wanted from the company, Dr. Recker?
Yes, they did provide a complete nutritional analysis. So props for that. Now, I wish that it was just right there on the website. I wish we didn't have to ask for it, just put it there so we don't have to do a whole lot of work to get it. But thank you for providing it. There's a lot of carbs in this food. That's the first thing I noticed when I looked at the ingredient label and the guaranteed analysis. And so to me, it seems a little high priced for so many carbs, in addition to the sourcing concerns that you all are talking about. But then when I look at the nutrient levels, they do a pretty good job of providing enough protein down to a relatively less active activity level, which is important for most of our pets. Most of our pets are less active. So the protein does pretty well. The place that I can actually give them high marks is on their feeding directions. And I'm carrying the responsibility that Steve Brown passed to me for assessing feeding directions very seriously here. So I want to do Steve proud with feeding directions assessments today. And Just Food for Dogs did a nice job with this. And the way they did a nice job is they provided feeding directions in cups and ounces, not just cups. They gave a range, and their amount that they're recommending equates to a K factor of 84. And for those of you who followed along with the Inside Scoop U that Steve and I did over the last year, you know that number is a reflection of an activity level. The higher the number, the more calories that animal needs to eat. And if we formulate to a lower number, that means that there are enough nutrients in that smaller calorie package. So their protein goes down to a fairly low number, and they're actually recommending a lower number of calories, which is great. So they do not appear to be trying to make dogs fat right out of the gate. So I'm going to give them kudos for that.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you doing that assessment.
I just upped my game by introducing Lion's Mane Focus Capsules by Mushroom Revival. It's a quick and easy way to give myself that extra edge that I need throughout the day. The capsules are made with 100% mushroom fruit bodies, and it's easy as just taking 2 capsules with my morning coffee. It improves my focus.
You doing that assessment. So as a higher carb food, my take home would be, if you've got an animal that for whatever reason, end stage kidney failure, needed some lower protein, this may be an option. My concern, and Rodney, I think that you share the concerns, if you're going to do conventionally grown carbs, you got to be nervous about glyphosate. And I think that you have, it'd be interesting to see if they've ever measured glyphosate. I don't think that the company has measured glyphosate in their food, but that would be something that for conventionally raised grains that we would be thinking about potential contaminants.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know, glyphosate would be one big issue. And then, something so carb heavy, not all dogs, but some dogs, what that might do to the skin microbiome. We know today when you have an off-balanced skin microbiome, that sometimes when foods become overly heavy in carbohydrates, it can really, really shift the microbiome. So something definitely to consider. Now, Inside Scoopers, we have our scoring total. This is going to be new. It was so hilarious because when I tested it, like literally 20 minutes ago before we went live, it crashed and it failed on me. So hopefully we don't have any crashing and burning here. We try to keep this live show as snazzy as we can. So our experts have all submitted their scores. All the scores have been tallied, and you're going to see this bar that's going to pop up for you once these scores have been tabulated. And there you go. Just Food for Dogs came in at a 3.8 overall. Pretty decent start, I'd say, Dr. Becker, no?
Well, certainly better than if you caught our dry food review. I don't know. We started out with a bunch of ones, I think, 0.5s, 1.5. So yeah, this is. I feel like we're starting a little bit on a more positive note.
There you go.
Which is excellent.
Yes, there you go. Anything above a 1 is always good. All right, so that moves us into our next category, and the good folk over at Stella and Chewy's with their freshly made, beefy-licious, lightly cooked diet. Susan, what did you find here in your research?
I found that the company was private equity in 2020. They had 2 recalls, both in 2015. Both were for pathogenic bacteria. It's not pure food, but this company uses marketing methods that me personally, I don't agree with. They quote raw coated kibble. Well, there is no such thing as a raw coated kibble. Raw is one unprocessed state of food. Kibble is a processed state of food. So I don't want to confuse consumers like that. So wish they would do and things like that.
Yeah. Dr. Royal, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel a little bit suspicious of where some of this is going from the company standpoint for sure. I look at how my patients do, again, on this product, and I feel like there's things like, there's sunflower oil in there. It's not organic, so it's going to be processed with hexane, so there's going to be that kind of a petroleum type product added in. I know that they're not sourcing all the time, well, so I will see pea, and then there's a lot of peas in there, high on the ingredient list. Things like that make me think they're more focused on the selling than they are on really creating an excellent food. And I think that for the price that we're talking about, boy, I think people can do better. That's all.
I like the fact that
although,
yeah,
sorry, I'll just say one thing. I do like to tell people, I try not to think too much about the price being a limiting factor, because if you get what you pay for, you'll pay for whatever you need for your lovely pets. It's not really necessarily why is this so expensive. It's just, one, how can food be so cheap? For one thing, you don't really want to feed the cheapest food. And 2, are you getting what you pay for?
Yeah. In with this particular food, the organic carrots I'm loving. That's the second ingredient, but then the kale, the apples, peas are not organic. So there's room for some improvement when it comes, I think, to organic sourcing. For sure, there's some room. They use sodium selenite as the selenium source, and we could swap that out for some high selenium yeast to help reduce some of the synthetics in the food. Dr. Recker, what are your thoughts?
Well, I like that they did provide an almost complete nutritional analysis, so that was helpful, and very helpful because they have both beef liver and a copper supplement listed here, which is always a red flag for, oh my, what's the copper level in this food? And it is not excessive, so that's great that they're allowing us to see that information with a complete nutritional analysis. They their protein level is pretty good for less active pets, but it's not going to meet all of the micronutrient needs for less active pets when it's fed at the appropriate calorie level. So B6 and choline appear to be deficient for less active dogs. On that note, so they do provide a dry matter analysis, and several of our foods today provided that complete nutritional analysis on a dry matter basis. That's not ideal for fresh foods that have a higher caloric density. That can be kind of misleading when we're looking at analysis and on a dry matter basis. So on my wish list, manufacturers, is that if you're offering a fresh food, please show us your complete nutritional analysis in caloric values. How much nutrient per 1,000 kcals? You can show us dry matter too. Show us both. I'm a more information kind of girl, but we really like those caloric values. From a feeding direction standpoint, they did pretty well. Their feeding directions are not super high in terms of activity level assumptions, so I appreciate that. Given in ounces and pouches, ounces of course being much more accurate way to measure. They're relatively tight weight ranges, which is helpful, much easier than when you see a wide weight range of, like, feed 8 ounces for 20 to 50 pounds. Well, what do you do with that? So I like that they have a smaller weight range there.
Yeah, for sure. Eileen asks, is it human grade? Yes, Eileen, they do claim human grade status. And their cooking method is sous vide, gently cooked, flash frozen. Susan, thank you, Susan Rucker, thank you so much for figuring out that that many of the foods, in Inside Scoopers, we've done previous episodes on this, that this whole concept that if your dog or cat is a little heavy, just to feed them less food, that does not work nutritionally. And we've known this now as our group of proactive veterinarians the last couple of years. We are aware of this. We've made the FDA aware of this, that recommending just feeding less food doesn't work, because then those animals are nutrient deficient. So if you feed the amount on the package, your animal can potentially become fat. If you feed less than the amount recommended on the package, your animal could be nutrient deficient. And that's the point that Dr. Recker's making, is that for this particular food, as long as you're feeding the recommended amount, your animal's getting all those nutrients. If you are feeding less than the recommended amount, there could be short on some micronutrients, and that's important to know. So I appreciate you crunching those numbers, Dr. Recker. All right, Rodney.
With that human grade question, when, for your listeners, when it says human grade on the label, ignore any website claims, but when it's on the label, labels, at least for the time being, we don't know what's going to happen with AAFCO and FDA, but at least for now, those claims are verified. The labels are verified. So if it says, human grade right there on the label, so pet owners can trust that it does meet all the legal requirements of a human grade pet food on the label.
All right. Okay.
Yep. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you, Susan. Yes. All right. Well, this brings us into our scoring session, Inside Scoopers. We've tallied the votes from our experts. And Stella and Chewy's came in at a 3.7, Dr. Becker.
There we have it. Some room for improvement. Stella and Chewy's, not horrible score and not amazing. So, but yes, still, Rodney, as you point out, things are looking better this particular review.
It's a good week. It's a good week.
It is a good week.
So far,
it's a good week.
We're above 2.5. We're above 50% every time. This is pretty good. Moving us into one very popular brand, which is Nulo. I know when you every time I visit Super Zoo or Global, I know the good folk over there always say hello, and they have a product out called the Gently Cooked. I gotta say, I opened this package up here. Holy moly! It's got some strong food aromas in it. So I think maybe that's why all the pups are loving it. But Susan, what have you found in your research with this Gently Cooked meal?
Mule was purchased by private equity in 2021. Company has not had any recalls. The company does state that meats are USDA inspected and passed, but I personally have no verification of that. We're trusting them. The label says responsibly sourced proteins, which leaves me with a big question mark. What does that mean? And this is insanely expensive pet food. If it's not all organic, all certified humanely raised meats, then that's a very, very high price.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Price Inside Scoopers for a 30-pound dog. Our admins calculated out to be $20.97, which for 30 pounds that's if you can afford it, wonderful. But yes, makes it difficult.
Oh yeah, it's right there.
Dr. Royal.
Yeah, I had to look at this a few times because I kept saying, really? Part of the problem for me was that the fat content is so high. And I'm not really sure I can identify. It doesn't really, we don't know where that's all coming from. And in addition, one of the fats that's in there is my dislike of the not organic sunflower oil. So having such a high fat, that may be a problem for some animals, and I have seen that a little bit in the patients that I see. But also, the second ingredient is bone broth, which makes me feel like it's sort of, for the price that you're paying and your second ingredient is bone broth, you're adding a lot of liquid to something that, I love bone broth, don't get me wrong, I'm all about it. But having that, your second ingredient, makes me think, wow, this doesn't really make sense for this amount of money you're spending on a food, unless that bone broth is made out of, something really fancy. So, and I do feel like there's, again, it should be organic, it should be sourced well for this money. My clients should be seeing a perfect food, and they're not.
Yeah, I reflect similar sentiments in that this food does not claim human grade status, and so for a feed grade food, they do say that they prioritize partnerships with suppliers who uphold humane practices, but there's no third party validation. There's not an organization that is substantiating that, and so it's just the company on the company website stating that they have humanely sourced meats, but what does that mean? As Susan Thixton said, what does that mean, and where exactly, who's certifying them, and where are those meats coming from? Yeah, I've got those same questions. Dr. Recker, what are your thoughts about what labels look like and what their complete nutritional analysis looks like?
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Nulo, I'm sure you're all very lovely people. I'm sure you are. And please recall what Dr. Becker said at the beginning. This is not a personal attack. However, if you want to make your dog fat, this would be a great food to feed. The feeding directions are really, really, really high, to way too many calories. I guess the good part is they're being truthful there, because your dog has to eat that many calories in order to meet minimum nutrient requirements. So this food is not appropriate for sedentary pets. And by sedentary, I mean like dogs that are not doing agility for 3 hours a day. So the feeding directions here are insanely high. The protein just barely meets minimum when fed at the recommended amounts, which are too high. So this is definitely a situation where your dog's either going to be fat or nutrient deficient. The protein just barely met FEDIEF's active. It meets AFCO, not by much, but by a little. Just barely meets FEDIEF active. Does not meet FEDIEF's tryptophan requirements for active dogs. So lots of nutritional deficiencies here if fed the way most North American dogs need to eat.
All right. So those of you that have sled dogs,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
might
you'll
be
go
okay.
feeding it, but
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, some room for improvement.
Well, that unfortunately the 0.5 drops the score here. Nulo, we've got some room to work. 2.1, Dr. Becker.
But this is where we can be so excited about our upcoming, hopefully new Where Are They Now segments. Nulo, we'd like to have you back next year and see where are you now, because you have amazing free advice to improve your products. Yay.
All right, there it is, Inside Scoopers. Okay, this moves us into our next and final product in our bestseller category, which is Sojo's. Susan Thixton. What did you find with the ever so popular Sojo's?
Which is Wellness Pet Food in 2016. They have not had any recalls. This pet food is dehydrated, but the company claims it's raw. They quote, add water, soak and serve, nutritious, delicious raw meat. Well, if it's dehydrated, it is not raw. Dehydrated is a process. So I don't like when companies do that as well. And this might be out of their control, but this is their responsibility. I found some ingredient discrepancies from the Sojo's website to like ingredients listed on Chewy, and that's not good. What if a consumer doesn't do those? It is a company, in my opinion, it's the company's responsibility to make sure, as they can, that anybody selling their products is providing the same information as their website.
Okay, Dr. Royal, what are you seeing in the exam room?
I see a lot of overweight animals and animals with different types of hormonal problems. And I believe I can trace that to the fact that chickpeas are very high on this. And I know from my organic farmer husband, chickpeas, when they are harvested, the way that they do that, unless they're organic, is they spray the field with a lot of pesticides, let everything die. And so particularly glyphosate, they let everything die, and then they will pick up the chickpeas, and that's what they sell. So if chickpeas are not organic, I am not a fan of them being in there. Plus, they're pretty high on the ingredient list, so that bothers me as well. I don't feel like this food, because of the synthetic supplements that are in there, don't like to see copper sulfate and other sulfates in there. The sourcing, to me, is not good enough, and certainly not for the price that we're talking about.
Yeah, my concern is that when our secret shopper contacted this company and asked for a complete nutritional analysis, they did not respond.
Oh.
So yes.
Yeah.
So we'll
That's
pass that
trouble.
right along to Dr. Recker, who probably will also say, oh dear.
oh dear. Oh dear, indeed. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what kind of nutrition we're getting with this product because they don't make it available even upon request, which does not inspire a lot of confidence in me. If you're proud of your food, let's see what's in it. Let's see what the nutrient levels are. So the only nutrition assessment I could make of this food in terms of is it meeting requirements is from the guaranteed analysis. And the protein level is okay down to a relatively good inactive activity level for dogs. So that looks okay. Their feeding directions, though, again, are really bad. Their feeding guidelines are pretty high activity. That's what they're calling average activity on their website. Feeding guide actually translates to really, really high activity. So they're promoting feeding too much, and their feeding directions are given only in cups, not in ounces or grams. So missing the mark on the feeding directions as well.
Can I just add, as a vet, I would really like to be able to see the analysis because I do see so many animals with different problems of being overweight or skin problems and things like that. on this, and I'd like to know what it is that's doing that. It's really frustrating when I don't get the information.
Yeah. And it's also, I guess we have experienced this from the big guys, like Purina veterinary diets, for instance, where, you'd like to know if they're on a prescription diet, why on earth is the ingredient, why is the CNA secret? Because we're in the exam rooms trying to help these patients that are really sick and not doing well, and you were not going to tell us exactly what's in the food. That's a massive problem. The companies that we are reviewing on today and non-big pet food, I really hold these companies to a higher standard because they are trying to do things differently and better. And so how you do things differently and better is you would have to be different and more transparent, which means you say, well, the big guys don't give out a complete nutritional analysis. We're not going to. That doesn't fly with me whatsoever because we're trying to not be the big guys. We're trying to help patients and pet parents around the world make better decisions because we have more information. And if you're withholding the information from us, how are we supposed to help them? We can't. Awkward silence.
This is exactly why we do what we do, why we were propelled to do this.
Yeah.
It's all of that because food is medicine.
Well, Inside Scoopers, sadly, that brings us, our incredible experts can't hear the music, but you guys heard the music. You guys can get it on the playback, but it's the womp 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 1.8. Sadly, Sojo scored. Hopefully to the good folk over at the Sojo's headquarters, if you're listening to this.
Yep.
We've got some work to do. And don't avoid the mystery shopper. Never avoid the mystery shopper. All right.
Yes.
Sorry.
The other thing I'll mention is brands. We know we saw many of you sign up, and you guys were transparent with your sign up emails. Some of you were, some CEOs we know are in here with under aliases. We welcome that too. You can take this free, unbelievable, honest information, go back, apply it, make the changes, improve your food, and then email us because we will let our audience know that you took the time and the energy to listen to your buyer base and make things better. That scores high for every single one of our panelists. Thumbs up. So you can either be angry at our honest, transparent reviews, or you could say, ooh, we didn't know. Fix your food and then let us know, and we will let our people know. And that's how we make food better. So we do hope that you email us sometime this year and let us know that you have improved your feeding directions and or you put your complete nutrition analysis of all your products on your website. Mwah! Yay!
All right, there you have it. Inside Scoopers, we're moving into your favorite category, Inside Scoopers, which is the most requested brands. When we put out a calling for what would you like us to review, the thousands and thousands of requests that came in, these are the brands that you selected, that you asked us for. Now, remember, if you're just tuning in now, there's already 115 brands that have already been reviewed. So if you didn't catch it here today and you're just joining now, when you're in the guide section, type in the search bar the name of the company that you might be looking for or a past review, and hopefully you find it there. Which takes us, Dr. Becker, to the ever so popular small batch. Holy moly, this was all over the comment section. Everybody wanted to be, please review small batch. Susan, what did you find in your research?
The company. They have had one recall that was in 2017, pathogenic bacteria. They are on my 2025 list, have been on the list for several years. So I personally have verified that all ingredients are human edible, fruits, vegetables are certified organic, all meats, except for the rabbit, is certified humanely raised. For the price, I think with what you're getting, certified humanely raised meats and organic, almost all of the ingredients are organic. I think it's a very fair priced product.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dr. Royal, your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way. My clients are always, they're a little skeptical when they start on a product like this that's pretty expensive, but when they see the results in their animals, they are so happy that that's what they're spending. So that completely works for me. I feel like we should always be thinking about, we all love animals, so let's love the food animals that are feeding our pets. So if they're treated well and it's all humanely raised, that makes us all feel better when we're buying the food and giving money to these companies. Same thing with the organic ingredients. And then you know that your pet is going to be getting a better quality ingredient each time. So if the sourcing and the integrity of the excellent ingredients is good, I feel like you look right down through Balance. And if I evaluate this through the animal diet formulator myself too, I would say this food makes me very happy. I like this company. I've always liked this company.
I also feed Kelly Girl I do feed small batch in rotation for my kitty. I choose this food because it's mostly whole food ingredients. It is organic. I do believe that the all life stages will not be appropriate for some animals. And so I rotate foods that I feed everything in my life for a bunch of reasons. But the feeding directions, Dr. Recker.
Yeah, I have so many good things to say about Small Batch as a company and their ingredients and their nutrient levels, with the exception of their phosphorus, which is too high. They're only giving it to us on dry matter basis. Again, I would like caloric values. They're not even giving me caloric density, so I can do the conversion and figure out if it's meeting requirements on a caloric level. But phosphorus is too high. But the real problem here is the feeding directions. It's given only in number of sliders. They're little patty things, not ounces. And the biggest problem here is the feeding directions appear to be linear. And what that means is they figure, okay, well, if a 10-pound dog gets one slider, then a 20-pound dog must get 2 sliders, or whatever. There you can see what the feeding directions are. The problem with that is that it underfeeds small dogs and it overfeeds big dogs. So when I calculated what their feeding directions come out to, a 5-pound dog was being fed at a K factor of 47. Just for reference, that's like just a little bit more than half of resting energy requirement. So way, way, way too low. A 30-pound dog, pretty good, K of 73, thumbs up. A 100-pound dog, a K of 98. That's a really highly active 100-pound dog, so probably not accurate. So I had to ding you guys, Small Batch, on your feeding directions. Gave you high marks on everything else, but feeding directions, not so good. And I hope you'll still be my Valentine after you see my feeding directions.
Listen, I view this. Dr. Recker just gave you 10 grand worth of free advice. Mwah. Thank you, Dr. Recker, for caring enough. We love this brand and we want to see them correct their feeding instructions. And y'all just got a bunch of free, really amazing information that you can fix.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I see that in animals too. I have to play with their feeding instructions a lot with my patients.
Yep, makes sense.
All right,
Rodney.
so it brings us in. I mean, look, the scores are high. We still got a 3.9. I believe it's the highest one so far, Dr. Becker, in our reviews. The ever so popular Small Batch, I know they're fans of the Inside Scoop and they're Inside Scoopers, so some room to be perfect, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Email us when the feeding directions are fixed. Woohoo!
Okay, that will bring us to our next category. Now, this one is heavily requested. All Provide has been on the popular email and DM list that we've been getting a lot lately. And Susan, this is exciting because Dr. Becker and Susan, it's cats. We're showing some love here for our kitty cats. Look, we've done some episodes in our previous with cats, and I know people are asking, hey man, more cats. We're trying. So we brought in the All Provide Holistic Pet Care cat line, the turkey line, Susan.
This company as well is on my 2025 list. It has been on the list for many years. They are privately owned and, to my knowledge, no recalls. So they are verified human grade ingredients They are made in their own facility, which is not under USDA inspection, so they don't meet the full definition of a human grade pet food. But I personally have verified all their ingredients are human grade. They have quite a few organic ingredients. The beef is grass-fed and certified humanely raised poultry. Wild-caught salmon, sardines, and the cod liver is even sourced from wild-caught cod. The only thing I can say about them is I wish they used a whole egg ingredient instead of an egg powder. The more whole food, the better. But I think it's a great company.
Dr. Royal.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job of trying to put together something useful and that cats like, which is really an important part of it. It seems to be reasonably affordable, but it's not as cheap as some of the other foods out there, but you're getting a little bit what you pay for there. So if you are getting what you pay for, we're very happy about that. I like the ingredients being humane, and I like that they're paying attention to sourcing. My comment on it really is that I feel like the fat is a little bit too low, and I would love to see more fiber in this. And that's specifically for my patients that I see some issues with that, and I'm usually adding fiber when I see them coming in on this food. I'd love to see that improved. I like the fat balance to be paid attention to more. I don't feel like pet food companies are really looking at the different types of fats and all of their ratios and how much fat is in there. I think people are always worried about, like, we don't want a high fat diet or something because we're worried about pancreatitis and things like that. I understand, but I would love if I felt there was more attention paid to fat balance in foods.
Yeah. I'm right there with you when it comes to fiber. The guaranteed analysis Inside Scooper, they list fiber at 0.5%. For my cat and the average sedentary kitties that I see, I would be nervous about constipation because the fiber content's really low. And then when I look at the ingredient list, I love the fact, Susan Thixton's points, that we have organic, ethically sourced. It's a beautiful lineup. There's organic vitamin E added. There's salmon oil, which is great. The only kind of whole food nutrient I'm seeing is sea kelp and organic wheatgrass powder. So there's no other synthetics. When our secret shopper, the CNA is not on the website. When our secret shopper called them, they said that there were links on the website, but when you click the link, it took us to the guaranteed analysis. It did not take us to a complete nutritional analysis. And Inside Scoopers, those of you that have been through Dr. Recker and Steve Brown's courses, you know that the guaranteed analysis is the basic, fiber, fat, protein, and moisture on the label. There's just minimum. It doesn't say how many it doesn't say how much vitamin D, how much vitamin E, how much taurine, none of that. So we like to be able to go to websites and see the very detailed, specific micronutrients that each SKU, each brand, each flavor of food has. And we love it when companies just automatically do this. In this situation, they said they provided a link that when you click it, it doesn't go to a CNA, it goes to the GA, which doesn't tell us anything. When our secret shopper called the company back, they said to just give us a call, and they provided their phone number, and we'll try and answer your questions. One of those questions was what temperature, like what's the processing method, and what temperature is the food processed at, and for how long? And when our secret shopper called back, he was unable to get that information. So we don't know at what temperature, we don't know exactly how the food was processed because it's not on the website. And when the secret shopper called, they were not able to provide that. So correcting some of those things would be on my list of things to do. Dr. Recker, what are your thoughts about feeding instructions?
Well, one of the first things I look at when I evaluate feeding instructions is how much protein is in there, because as we saw with one of our earlier entries into today's reviews, if their protein is so low, they have to feed at a really high activity level. That animal has to eat a large volume of that food to meet its protein needs, and then oftentimes goes over in too many calories. Props to All Provide for this kitty food here. They have a very low volume requirement for kitties to meet their protein needs. So kitties can easily meet protein needs. Even very sedentary kitties who don't need to eat a lot of calories can meet their protein needs with this food very well. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to meet all their micronutrients. When we did finally get a complete nutritional analysis, the levels of a few of the micronutrients were not quite up to the level that we need for less active kitties. So really great on protein, a little less great on some of the micronutrients. With the feeding directions, the big problem here is that their feeding directions, again, appear to be linear. So they didn't offer any kind of activity range feeding directions for cats. They said adult cats feed this much, kittens feed this much, but they didn't offer any sort of guidance about activity level and what to feed in there. So some room for improvement on their feeding directions as well.
But good for getting, when the mystery shopper did call back and say we need the CNA, good, thank you for providing that. So we do appreciate that we were able to get that before this review. We appreciate people helping us be able to effectively analyze their products. So we do appreciate that. Rodney, where are we coming in?
All right, after tallying our expert panel's votes, 3.9. Which I think ties one of the highest scores of the day. So that's not so bad. We're doing good here, Dr. Becker, with these scores. Okay.
There you go.
We're now moving on to our next topic. We're just powering through these, which brings us to the Evermore company. You know, I don't know anything about this company. I don't think we have this in Canada. I've never seen this before, but I've seen all the requests online. I've seen all the people that say all the fantastic things about the company. Susan Thixton, I'm sure you know about Evermore.
I do. They've been on my list for many years. I think every company should look at what this company does. They do so much testing. To me, this company dots every I and crosses every T with the product they're making. They have independently tested their packaging for BPA, heavy metals, and phthalates. Their supplements, they require a certificate of analysis to come with supplements, but they retest them to confirm what the certificate of analysis says. They are verified human grade pet food, certified humanely raised, organic. It's a great company.
That's so refreshing to hear you say, because it doesn't happen very often.
Hooray!
But we love you. We love you for telling us how it is, because we need to know that every company is going to say their company's amazing. It's Susan Thixton. It's like, hey, wait, I have some questions. So we do. We love that you love this company. Dr. Royal, your thoughts?
Yeah, I gotta agree. I know this company, you know, the people in the company from conferences and things, and I've spent some time looking at what they do. But more importantly, in my patients, I feel like when I have animals that get onto their food, I see them do well, really well. I know it's because the ingredients are sourced carefully. I know it's because they're paying attention to what they're putting in there. I know that the balance is really very good. I feel like they've done a very good job explaining things on their website. My clients are pretty happy with the customer service. So I have nothing troublesome to say. And about the packaging, I have had a problem with people not paying attention to what the packaging is for these foods for a long time. I'm very concerned about it. I love them for paying attention to that.
Yep, it is. This company's attention to detail is wonderful and is refreshing. Reason enough for all of us to get pretty excited. Human grade, organic, humanely raised. Provides everything on their website. We don't have to call. Our mystery shopper didn't have to call because they just provide it all on their website. It's really a beautiful thing. Dr. Recker, how beautiful are those numbers to you?
Pretty darn beautiful. They are. And what I also like is there's more numbers than way more numbers than they're required to give us. They're only required to give us the GA. Not only do they give us a complete nutritional analysis for all of the essential nutrients per AFCO, they give us some extra bonus nutrients in there too. So they tell us what the L-carnitine level is, for example. That's not an essential nutrient that needs to be met at a certain level, but they're giving us those levels. They're telling us the pH of their food because they've done all of this testing. They know a lot about their food, and they're happy to share it too, which is really encouraging and makes me feel really good about their transparency. The other thing I like is on their feeding directions, they give a little explanation about the difference between Atwater and modified Atwater. And again, Inside Scoopers, if you all have come along for the Inside Scoop New Food journey with Steve Brown and I, we talked a little bit about this and the differences. So APCO oftentimes uses modified Atwater as a different calorie calculation because it kind of gives an assist to those ultra processed foods. It makes it a little easier to meet nutrient requirements. Well, Evermore has said, yeah, we get that. So here it is in Atwater. But just so you know, we use real food, so Atwater is more accurate. So that's really what we formulate in, which is the right way to do it. And these folks know what they're doing, and they're letting you in on everything that they're doing. And I love that. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. And that it's so refreshing to see a company that has formulated correctly, sourced correctly, calculated feeding instructions correctly. Michelle Frank says that their customer service is the best you could ever imagine. So that's wonderful all the way around. This is refreshing.
All right, that brings us into our scoring system for Evermore. And holy smokes, this one has blown many out of the water. Holy moly, 4.8, by far the highest score of 2025 of all the foods that we've currently reviewed. Good job, Evermore.
Nicely done, Evermore.
Yeah, nicely done. Well done.
And it proves it can be done. People say, oh, it can't be done, but it can be done. Just, we can do this.
That's right, there it is. Moving on to the next company, I believe Canadian company, would be the Canadian company Smack, Susan. What have you found in your reviews of Smack? Oh, and by the way, another cat food, Dr. Becker.
And a Canadian brand, I believe. Maybe?
It is.
Yeah.
Maybe
It
they're not.
is.
Yeah.
It is Canadian for sure. It says right there on the
They
top.
are made in Canada, but I found out that the company in 2024 began work on opening a plant in South Dakota in the U.S. So I don't know how long that'll take for that to happen, but it appears to be a privately owned company, no recalls. I tried to consider them for the 2025 list, but they didn't respond to me. And when I try to consider a company, I email them multiple times. So multiple times, they did not respond to me. So I'd like to verify it. Their website, the description of their food reads nice, but I'd like to verify to see if it's true.
Yeah. Dr. Royal, when you looked at this food?
Yeah, and I don't, as it's a Canadian company, I don't have personal experience with this food in many of my clients. But I just look at the food, again, it looks nice on the, but it doesn't seem, everything seems a little bit on the vague side. And I don't feel like, when they're saying, free range, things like that, I just don't know that what we're talking about with some of those things. It doesn't seem like anything is verified. So I worry a little bit too. One of the statements that I think, Susan, I think you're the one who got this back, saying that they said the reason that they don't have to worry too much about doing a complete analysis is that they've been producing food since 2007 and they haven't seen any concerns about deficiencies whatsoever. I don't know how they would know that, and that disturbs me quite a bit that that's the response that we get from that. So my stand on this is let's try to get some more confirmation and figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
before
I
you give
agree
them our
with that.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a company that did at least respond to the email requesting a complete nutritional analysis, but their response was really concerning. We've been producing pet food for dogs and cats across the world since 2007 with no concerns of any nutritional deficiencies whatsoever. That is
That's a Canadian statement, and let me, as a Canadian,
it's very kind.
Let me speak on that. Being a Canadian, to my fellow Canadians that are listening to this, it's really interesting because I've spoken on this before. When you go to trade shows in the United States, there is some sort of mystical unicorn that Canada, for some reason, has above standards than any other country in the world. We follow FEDIF. It was the Cape Crusader. It was Susan Thixton who brought this to my attention, like 2010, 2011, when she said to me, my friend, do you know how lawless your country is? I had no idea until I started to dig in and do the research. We have no rules here. Like, you can put anything you want on a label in my country and nobody is checking it. So I hate to say that. I'm Canadian through and through. I'm born and raised, right? But I would like to see a better system here, for the love of God. You and I, Karen, have tested foods over the years. We've done DNA analysis on foods. We've done DNA analysis on raw food companies that say, hey, I have lamb and chicken and beef and all these wonderful proteins. And when we tested the DNA of them, they were just all chicken with food coloring dyes. You started the Canadian Raw Food Project with Dr. Lori Kodra. You guys have posted results online on what happens in my country, but they just don't care. Like, balancing doesn't really mean. I mean, look, here's the company's statement, right? Our foods are balanced according to traditional raw food diets that use natural and whole food ingredients to promote optimal health in cats. We unapologetically believe that a diet consists of biologically appropriate organic whole food ingredients leading to a glowing quality of health that cannot be achieved through supplementation of synthetic vitamin minerals. Well, this follows that system, right? What is better, an unbalanced whole food diet for the rest of your life, or a synthetically balanced diet balanced with synthetics? It's this old philosophy that it's just always better to eat something unbalanced your whole life, as long as you claim that it's whole and it's fresh and so on and so forth, and the ingredients that you claim on the package are really there. Now, I'm not saying that the company's doing anything mischievous, and I'm not saying my frustration does not roll out on this company, but yet it rolls out on my country and the regulations here. And you and I have talked about it. I've had conversations with the Prime Minister, who's invited me into rooms to sit down with him and talk about his dog, and I've told him this problem. But it's the same song and dance I get. The CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, is overloaded and they can't handle pets, Dr. Becker.
So then companies that refuse to put their complete nutrition analysis online, I have, as a wellness-focused veterinarian, I have to do my due diligence in protecting my patients. I would say don't feed a food. Either feed it in rotation like a topper, a snack. If you want to stuff a Kong with a company that refuses to share their nutritional lineup, then you would use it, for, a little microbiome diversity, but you would never consider feeding this food and know in your heart that it's meeting your animal's nutritional requirements, because no one does, because it's a secret. So my issue is, if you're using Whole Foods and it's not nutritionally complete, no problem. Then just post it, say it's not nutritionally complete, and you can defend as to why you are not fixing it. Or there's this whole Canadian theory that if you just feed a bunch of Whole Foods in rotation, eventually it'll all shake out. Great. Put your company's philosophy on the website, but then also put the numbers so that as veterinarians, we can see what's missing and help our clients fill in the blanks, rather than say everything's in there that you need. Trust us. We've been feeding pets since 2007. We want to trust you, but how do we know we're not unintentionally harming animals? We don't. And guess what? You don't either if you're not going to share it. So that's how I feel.
Well, and look, and again, I want to stress this one more time because I know how many people watch these reviews. It's a myth to my fellow Americans. It's a myth to my fellow American retailers who are telling consumers, because you are told by the manufacturer that Canada has crazy standards, and buy Canadian pet foods because there's a unicorn in the back. It's not true. There's nobody testing here. So they can write whatever they want on the package, and you can get, God knows what's in that package. until we have better legislation here, until somebody does something, it's just a myth. And I just really wanted to stress that. And Susan Thixton, nobody more incredible you to school me on that and inform me of that. And man, that's stuck with me forever. I almost destroyed 2 animals feeding Canadian-based pet foods, man. It's just how unregulated it is here. Sorry about my rant, Susan Recker.
So Susan Rucker, with the very limited information you could glean from the website, what were you able to glean without being told anything?
Yeah, not so much, right? And so that makes me wonder, do they not know what's in their food, and that's why they won't share it, and they just rely on that blanket statement? I mean, gosh, okay, well, so anyway, I couldn't tell much about nutrients. They provided a few levels, and the few levels that they provided do meet some requirements, and that's great. Would like to know what the rest of them are. In terms of their feeding directions, similarly, a little lacking in the good practices here. Given only in cups, not ounces or grams, so you can't accurately measure. There are amounts given for overweight and lean animals. And the overweight column says feed X amount or less. Well, as we've been talking about, that doesn't mean that your kitty's going to get adequate nutrition when you feed less. You might be providing the appropriate number of calories, but is your cat getting all the nutrients she needs? Maybe not. And no one knows, not even Smack, maybe. So, and also their feeding directions do appear to be linear, which is another no-no in terms of accurately calculating what the calorie needs are. So, not great there either.
Well, I guess that's going to bring us right to our scoreboard, isn't it, Karen? Without further ado, where ratings come in, 2.4 stars. Just not enough information. All right, moving on to the next category. We have one crowd favorite to another crowd favorite, Raw Bistro. This one literally blew up the comment section, Susan Thixton, as everybody wants to know. Tell us about Raw Bistro, please. Tell us about Raw Bistro. What have you found, Susan?
Raw Bistro is as well on the 2025 list. It's been on the list for quite a few years. It is a privately owned company, and they have not had any recall. The ingredients are verified, human grade, organic. Their meats are not certified humanely raised, but they did provide me with information from like the farmers that the animals are humanely raised, pasture raised, grass fed, things like that. A lot of, like, just so everybody knows, a certified humanely raised does give us a third party verification, which is good because it's an outsider coming in validating a claim. But those are expensive, and not every farmer can go through that, and they might know of what the standards are and follow them, which is what, in this case, this company provided me with information. So it's not a verified, but you know, that happens a lot. That happens a lot, that a farm doesn't want to go through the third party verification because of cost. I think this is a great price for a human grade, humanely raised and organic pet food. Lots of organic ingredients.
Dr. Royal?
Yeah, I think if you would rather spend your money on good food rather than veterinary care, and you'd like to see your animal live a long time, you're going to be looking at a food like this. You're going to look at a food that is sourced well balanced. It seems like these people pay a lot of attention. I will say, sorry, I should say right off the bat that I do have a business relationship with them. So I have a professional relationship with this company now, but even before that professional relationship, I don't tend to make a professional relationship with companies that I don't feel like they're doing a really good job as it is, and I am a veterinarian, so I'm trying to make sure that the foods I'm giving to my clients are actually working in those animals. But I do feel like I understand, what Susan was saying about the certified humane. It's difficult for companies to source and find a lot of these. If they're buying from someone, those companies maybe don't want to have to go through all that trouble to do that, but they're doing a really good job. So making sure that they are paying attention to that, and that's something that I know about them as well. So I feel great about this company, and I also feel great about the way it looks on my patients, which makes me feel a lot more confident that everything's going well with the company as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also must disclose I have a professional relationship with this company, but I will also disclose that I actually met Pat Green, the owner of this company, before I met her as a friend at a conference with Steve Brown.
I just upped my game by introducing Lion's Mane Focus Capsules by Mushroom Revival. It's a quick and easy way to give myself that extra edge that I need throughout the day. The capsules are made with 100% mushroom fruit bodies, and it's easy as just taking 2 capsules with my morning coffee. It improves my focus.
And she was very interested, the very first dehydrated food company, looking to do things really, really well. She just wanted to do everything to the best of her ability, to the point that she's like, if you want to consider helping us with our foods, you got to get on a plane and come here, because I want you to see our animals. And that takes some confidence. She insisted that I come, and I think if you've heard this story before, she took me to the turkey farm, and the turkeys all are out there. They're on acres, turkeys sitting in trees, whole families of turkeys having sex, turkeys having big family relationships. And then they have mobile slaughter. A semi comes in, and these turkeys are literally happy, dead. And to see animals living their very best life, happy, eating good food, eating bugs, sitting in trees. It was the first time I've ever seen turkeys sit in trees. And I'm disclosing this because it impacted me, that it was important to her that I see how these animals are raised. She wanted me to see their manufacturing facility, and she wanted me to see every detail of their company. And it was wonderful, because not many companies want to show you everything about their company. And Raw Bistro did. And that is the reason that I have a professional working relationship with this company. So, Dr. Recker, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a lot of great things to say about this company, the way they operate, the ingredients that they choose. Nutrient levels look great for regular activity and growth. There are a couple of micronutrients that would be deficient for very less active dogs, which is true of nearly every commercial food. Good protein levels there. My only and their feeding directions, spot on, really good. Feeding directions that are recommending appropriate amounts of calories, not crazy high amounts of calories. So I appreciate that very much. Given in cups and ounces. There's a statement on their website that recommends watching your animal's weight and adjusting, not just a blanket statement, feed this much. The one little record-keeping note that I would request from Raw Bistro is there's no complete nutritional analysis posted for this particular product. I was able to look on their website and kind of reverse engineer from their fresh beef food and figure out that this is the same product that has been dehydrated. So I could kind of extrapolate from there. But if you didn't know to do that, you wouldn't know what the nutritional analysis is for this product. In addition, there may be some slight nutrient changes in the dehydration process, depending on how long the food is exposed to specific temperatures and that kind of thing. So if I could make any request to take it up just one more notch, you're already top notch, but just one more little half a notch would be give us a CNA for this specific product.
Good recommendations. Just a comment from the comment section, Rodney, real quick. People saying, why are we seeing seed oils in foods? Inside Scoopers, please go back and do the Pet Food U seminar series with Dr. Recker and Steve Brown. It will explain to you that LA and ALA are required. as nutrients. I know that, seed oils get a bad rap, and we would never recommend, using corn oil to meet your animal's LA requirements, but it is really important to recognize that omega-6 deficiencies can and will occur if you are not supplying a source of omega-6s, and omega-6s come from seed oils. So whether you're using walnut oil or organic sunflower oil, those oils are not in there for any other reason that it is a minimum nutrient requirement for dogs and cats. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right, Rodney.
I'm trying to find the slide. Okay. All right, that brings us into our scoring system. The 4.9 for Raw Bistro. That's a pretty solid score. That's a pretty solid score.
Yeah. They're proud of their turkeys, and they should be. Nicely done, Pat and Justin.
All right.
Yeah.
This brings us into the Farmer's Dog. Now, this one, Inside Scoopers, I believe, don't quote me on this, we may have reviewed a different type years ago, but here we are with the pork recipe that you, the Inside Scoopers, have asked us, please review this one for us. We want your take. We want the expert's take on this product. So, Susan Thixton, what do you have for us?
This company used to be on the list. They were removed in 2023. They have taken some private equity investments and no recall. Regardless of what anybody thinks about this company has done a lot for making pet owners all across the U.S. aware that there are fresh food options instead of kibble. And I think they've done a very good job with that. When they were on my list, they were human grade ingredients. There was no organic or no certified humanely raised. I don't know if that has changed, if their sourcing is the same, any different, I don't know today, but if you just look at the price, $5 a day for a 30-pound dog, and for eating human grade, if it's still human grade, that's not a bad price. They could do a lot better, but that's not a bad price.
Okay.
Dr. Royal?
Yeah, I agree. I do think they really have raised the profile quite a bit, and it's made a difference to a lot of people that they were out there doing this. My biggest problem is really when I see animals on this food, they do tend to be a little bit overweight because it's really pretty high in carbs. In addition, the sourcing's not great. It always makes me sad when I think about a pork food and I think about it's going to be industrially farmed, and I love pigs and I know what happens to them in that kind of confinement industrial farming. So that makes me super sad. It's also just not going to be great quality meats and other contaminants and things in there. In addition to that, I look at the salmon oil that they're using, and it's not, it just says that it's just salmon oil with no claims about where it's from. Farmed salmon tend to be swimming in a pool of chemicals and things, and so we tend to see a lot more contaminants in salmon oil from that. So I'm going to be worrying about that as well for my patients. I don't want all of that to be coming in with the food. I already have enough trouble dealing with animals being sick for other reasons. So I want the food to be better than this. I'd like to see for the price and for the high profile of, again, sort of holding them to a higher standard because they're saying, hey, there's a better way to do this. Well, then let's really do it better.
Yeah, I agree with that. When you're looking at those veggies, the potato, green beans, cauliflower, there are potentially more nutritious veggies that they could choose that could decrease that long list of synthetics that they have added to their food. They're using better quality synthetics, like hats off to that. Eileen says they have great commercials on TV. Rodney can comment about that in a minute. But let's first hop to Dr. Recker and get her opinions in terms of those of you that have ever tried to navigate this website. It can be a little frustrating. Dr. Recker, did you find it frustrating to try and navigate when you were trying to find some numbers?
It was downright annoying. I mean, you can't you can't find any information on there. They did provide a CNA, a complete nutritional analysis when we asked for it, which thank you, but no idea what their feeding directions are, because you take some quiz. You have to take a quiz before you can do anything on the website, which is already not my favorite. But then they just figure out for you how much of a given formula that your dog should eat. No idea what those calories are. So no idea what level we're feeding that dog at, and because of that, I can't tell whether the nutrient amounts are appropriate at that level if I don't know how many calories we're feeding that dog. So I was able to calculate that their protein is adequate in this formula down to a K factor of 74, which is pretty low activity. That's great, but no lower than that. And it does appear that the magnesium would be deficient at that particular level. So I can't tell from what they calculated whether the portion size that they're recommending for the dog that our secret shopper used would provide adequate nutrients or not. So I'm a little frustrated with the lack of transparency there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, this is a hard one. Like I said, years ago, they invited me to their facility in New York. I go in there. There's Susan Thixton's book right on their table. Susan Thixton's a huge inspiration for them. They told me at that time as well. They watched my TED Talk and said, we were just two dudes just sitting on our couch. We watched the TED Talk. It inspired the heck out of us. And we said, hey, we want to start a company. So kudos to those two young men, man. They formed a $1 million company from this. I don't know too much about what's going on today, though. I haven't spoken to them in many years. I don't even know if they still own the company or not. I don't know who what is kind of sort of happening over there. But it's, as somebody had mentioned earlier, one of our experts has mentioned earlier, they've done a lot pertaining to marketing in trying to change the perception online, right? I mean, you don't usually see many fresh food companies running commercial ads on television, especially a Super Bowl commercial called the Forever Dog. But we've talked about that in the past.
Yep, it's good that they are inspired, and I do think I'm thankful that that they are at least helping pet parents understand that there's a difference between human grade and feed grade foods. That's probably their biggest, what they have contributed most to the industry. But I agree with you. Their website could be clearer. They could provide.
Got the best horse owner hack. If you're not sure what your horse needs, Silver Lining Herbs has a free quiz that you can take so you can make sure your horse gets exactly what they need. It's super easy. It takes 5 minutes. You just go to the website. You can enter the name of your horse, their breed, if they're male or female, and then any issues that they have going on.
Clearer, they could provide more information. They could use more organic ingredients and higher veggie content for more nutrient dense, less synthetic food.
All right. Well, it came in at a 2.6. Sadly, we got to get those feeding guidelines. It is it is a journey trying to get to the information, as Dr. Recker alluded to. I myself tried to navigate through that website. Boy, oh boy, it is a process. So maybe something that might want to be tweaked, hopefully in 2025, which moves us to the next category, Dr. Becker. Goodness gracious, do you know that I met this incredible owner of this company, Inside Scoopers? I did a podcast with Dr. Katie Kangas at her vet clinic, and she was there for moral support. She seems like a beautiful human being. Does she not? An Inside Scooper, Dr. Becker.
Yes, for sure. We are incredibly happy. We have a number of companies that we are reviewing today that are committed Inside Scoopers, and we love that very much. Susan Thixton, have you had some interactions with the great people at Goodness Gracious?
Yes, they are on the 2025 list. They've been on the list for quite a few years. They are recalled. They own their own manufacturing facility that is licensed for human food, which is a big deal to have your own facility that has that certification. Verified human grade ingredients, some organic. Chicken is certified humanely raised. Other meats are not certified. They fall into that category of not certified, but are still meeting the standards of humanely raised. I think it's a very, very good company.
Wonderful. Dr. Royal?
Yeah, I agree. I think they've just done such a good job of paying attention to what's needed because they know. I think, Katie Kangas is, a veterinarian in the trenches, so she understands what we're looking for. I think it's really fun to look at the list of ingredients and see plums and sprouted alfalfa seeds and things that are going to bring some very interesting nutrients into the mix in terms of, even antioxidants and fibers and things. I love that their omega that they're putting in there is pelagic fish, not the large fish that can have more contaminants with them and things like that. So that's lovely that it's sardine, herring, mackerel, anchovy. And I do feel like they have made a food that when my patients eat this food, it always makes me happy. I'm always looking at that.
Yes, I use this food in rotation as well. I love the fact that they have adult formulations. I love the fact that it's human grade, that they're using mostly whole foods for nutrients and not synthetics. They've got some great organic ingredients in there. So this is a company that I also believe has thoughtfully formulated. They have put intention into every aspect of the products that they are producing. Dr. Recker, what did you find?
Well, this is another company that I have a lot of good things to say about. They do a lot of testing, their transparency, their sourcing, all great. The other area they really shine is that their protein levels, again, are appropriate for sedentary pets. So dogs are able to consume a small amount of this food and meet their protein needs. And when I look at micronutrients, most of those are covered down to a relatively low activity level as well. So nicely done there. Feeding directions, perfect. Given in ounces, they give a couch potato feeding level and a Wonder Dog feeding level, both at appropriate K factors. Couch potato for a 30-pound dog was a K of 71. Wonder Dog was a K of 115. Their calculations are well done, and I appreciate their attention to that important detail.
Nice.
All right, that brings us over to our scoring, for goodness gracious, and the whole 4.9, one of our highest reviews. Well done, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious.
Nicely done.
There. All right. See what I did there, Karen? All right, moving on. We have got a couple more here, and then we're out of this category. Only an hour and 39 minutes in. We're flying, Karen.
We were just sailing right along, Rodney.
Except for the hour previous to that to get the whole darn thing set up that our poor guest had to be on. All right, this brings us to Emma Lou's, Miss Susan Thixton. What are your thoughts of Emma Lou's?
Emma Lou's on my saying the name Emma Lou's with my southern accent. I think it's just perfect. We are on that 2025 list, privately owned, no recalls. They have a company-owned USDA commercial kitchen inspected by the USDA, but they are not on site, but it's still a very big deal. So human grade ingredients, some organic. I would like to see more organic, but that raises the price when that happens. So maybe they're trying the best they can to keep the price down. Humanely raised meats, but not certified.
All right, Dr. Royal.
Yeah, I guess it's one of these things where you're sort of saying, okay, they're trying hard to do this well. When I see something like the quinoa is pretty high on the list in there, the carbs are a bit high, the protein is reasonable, the fat is a bit low for me in terms of what I think I would prefer to see in a balanced food. I am also a little bit concerned that the sourcing is not that great. So again, I know it's easier to do an inexpensive food without having really great sourcing, but I think if if people really did start to demand that more, we could make a big difference. And I want to see more of that in these fresh food companies. I really do.
I do love the fact that this company transparently posted their complete nutritional analysis, that they're using human grade muscle meats. In fact, the first ingredient is top round beef steak. That's nice. I think that's the only food that is listing a top round steak as that first ingredient. So lean muscle meat is nice to see. You may or may not want, some people need quinoa for medical reasons. Some people don't want to give quinoa. So this is an option if you were looking for a food that does contain some carbs. This is an option. Dr. Recker, how did things look on the nutrition panel?
My one beef, I guess, with this that is kind of an important one. This is labeled for all life stages, but calcium and phosphorus do not meet growth requirements. So, in the words of the great Steve Brown, don't F with growth. So this is, so I'm gonna have to give them a deduction there. Otherwise, their protein levels look good. Their feeding directions are well done. So that all is great, but you really can't miss those calcium phosphorus levels and call this a growth food.
Oof. Yeah, that's a really important point. And there again, this is amazing free advice, Emma Luz. You just got a free nutritional analysis from people that formulate pet foods, both commercially and for pet parents. And that's a really good catch and an important thing to correct. So thank you for analyzing that.
All right. It's a pretty fantastic score. 4.4. That's an awesome score, I would say. Good job to Emma Luz, and room for improvement. All right, this brings us into the final brand that has been most requested by you before we get into our final category, Inside Scoopers, and our giveaway. So you want to stay tuned for that. But we have the Happy How. I've never heard of Happy How before, Susan. What have you found in your research about the Happy How?
Well, they were brand new to me for the 2025 list.
Yay.
Privately owned company, no recall. They are manufactured under USDA inspection. So that's a big deal. That's a third-party verification that all ingredients would be human edible. No organic. Same kind of thing, wish they were there, but it could be they're trying to bring the cost down by not using organic, but we're going to hope for the future that they do. But I think this is a nice company, nice food.
Dr. Roy, do you have any patients consuming this food?
I don't, so I'm sort of interested to see what would happen. I would be concerned because there is rice, potato, and whole wheat flour in the recipe. So I would be a little bit hesitant unless I had animals that really did need, excuse me, wow. Animals that really did need some extra carbs.
You're having a gluten.
I was choking on that.
Yeah, you're having a gluten reaction just saying the word whole wheat flour in a pet food.
Just saying it, it feels like I breathed it in and then I got coughed up. But it's nice that it is that they do some humane meat, but also industrially farmed meat. So it's this sort of treading on the boundary of things that it can be really good and not. Maybe they can do a little bit better. Decrease on the carbs a little for me, that would make me happy. But in general, I thought it seemed reasonable for what they're doing. It was a little bit expensive too for what we're getting, I think.
My concern is that when you click, there's a little tab on the website that says full nutritional info. And when you click it, you get a guaranteed analysis plus a few other nutrients. It is absolutely not a complete nutritional analysis. So I would like to see their complete nutritional analysis online. That would be a lovely addition. My 2 cents. What did you find nutritionally, Susan? Other than there's a lot of carbs, other than the carbs.
Yeah, and the carbs might be contributing to this problem that I did find with the feeding directions, which is I'm going to give them points for recommending a feeding amount that will not promote obesity. However, the amount that they're recommending feeding to a 30-pound dog does not provide adequate protein. So,
Ooh,
that's a problem.
it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's a problem. So you either got to fix your formulation or fix your feeding directions. Ideally, you'd fix both. You'd have a food that meets the nutrient requirements in the right amount of calories.
And did we mention all the synthetics in here?
We didn't, but it's worth mentioning.
It's worth mentioning. There's a lot. Probably because there's so many carbs, they need more supplements to just meet the nutritional requirements.
Yeah. They are using amino acid chelates, which we like. They are unfortunately using sodium selenite, which we don't like. So, but there's a lot of supplements in this food. So some room for improvement, but we appreciate companies that are trying, and we do think that companies will take this advice to heart and fix their foods.
All right, so we've got a score of 3 for Happy Howl, which moves us into our final category before our giveaway, Dr. Becker, which is Inside Scooper, the base mixes. Man, did we get a big request for that this year. These are the best-selling and most requested base mix brands by you, the ones that you asked us, our experts, to review for you, which leads us into the ever so popular and holy moly, literally, I can't tell you how many comments came in for this one, Dr. Becker, for the base mixes, people asking us, please review these, please review these. There's a whole line of them, but in this case here, we brought the grain-free fruit and veggie mix. Susan Thixton, what did you find in your research on the Honest Kitchen's ever so popular base mix?
It's a company took a minority investment from private equity in 2013, well, I don't know what year. I'm confused on my years here. In 2013, they did have a recall with salmonella. This company, you have to give them kudos. They were the first company, and they went to court to fight for that human grade claim on their label. I believe it was in the state of Ohio. The State Department of Agriculture said, nope, you can't do that. Honest Kitchen said, yes, we can, because we meet every legal requirement of human food. They went to court, they won. So thanks to their efforts, this company's efforts, today we do have this whole category of pet foods, human grade, that have human grade on the label, that are verified. And that's a big deal. So it was wonderful that they did that. Not a lot of organic, I don't believe, in this food, but an affordable price for this. You're still adding meat, but an affordable price.